You're listening to The Flickcast, a podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, of course, my co-host extraordinaire, Joe Dilworth. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I am well. How are
I'm
you?
doing well, man. Thanks a lot for asking. It's again kind of you to inquire as to my well-being. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm. It's something that's of concern to me. So I want to make sure
It's pertinent to your interests, as you say.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes,
exactly.
Yes. So I'm glad you're doing well.
I'm
glad lots of people I know are doing well. I know it's still we're not out of the woods yet, as they say, and we're not going to turn this into a COVID podcast, as we try not to. But things are looking up. Let's just say that. So.
Exactly. They are looking up. At least it seems like for the most part. But there's a lot of, fortunately, a lot of stuff to distract you from the everyday, lots of shows and whatnot.
Yes.
TV and movies and things of that nature. Books, I suppose, people read too sometimes and listen to music and whatever. But on this episode, we're going to get back to Picard again, and we're going to get back to Moon Knight, talk about the recent news about DC rebooting its entire slate of movies and stuff like that. I'm sure there'll be some segues and some tangents and stuff too.
No, we never do that.
Shocking. And unfortunately, the humor will never be as good as last week when I made the sex bomb joke. But that's fine.
I still am. I'm like telling people about that to this. That was just like, sir, I am in awe that you just threw that out there. That was pretty. Yeah, that was pretty fantastic. Unfortunately, there are a number of people that I have to explain it to, and I'm like, come on, have you guys never seen? Okay. So.
Well, it's a good opportunity for you to bring up Scott Pilgrim and say, if you haven't seen Scott Pilgrim, you should watch it.
Right.
It's super good.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, no, that was just yes. I'm doing the chef's kiss.
It's one of the few compliments I've gotten, so it's nice that someone called it out on Twitter too. I appreciate that. It's like, oh, that was funny. Good job. So
yes.
Thank you, Eric. For saying nice things about me. I appreciate that. But the truth is, in full disclosure, I've known Eric since I was a kid, so it's not like he's some random fan. He actually used to write for the site too long ago. But
he says nice stuff
Eric.
About us, even me.
He does,
which is nice. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Eric. Yes.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We haven't seen each other in a while because he's in California. But anyway. On this show, we will discuss the things I just said, and then I'm sure other stuff will happen, and we'll have picks. And we were going to talk about The Batman, and we were going to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I did not see Everything Everywhere. But I did see The Batman, but we won't get into it because Joe hasn't watched it yet. We will eventually get to The Batman.
Next week, we will talk about The Batman.
Next week, we will talk about The Batman, because it's coming out on digital on the 18th, so that'll be easy to see. But that does segue us into DC, which since... Some people might know that now it is called Discovery Warner something. I don't know. It's Warner Brothers Discovery.
Warner Brothers Discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a stupid name, first of all. But second of all, the news now is that the executives who now run this company are, I don't know what's the word, dissatisfied with the current state of DC comics films, and so they want to reboot everything and start from scratch. Apparently. So, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I like the movies we've gotten so far. I guess I agree with them to a certain extent, because I guess apparently one of the things they're saying is they want like a Kevin Feige type person at the head to kind of guide the whole thing, and I get that. And they kind of had that with Zack Snyder, and I'm definitely not a Snyder bro. And I'm not going to side with those lunatics, but it was unfortunate that he had personal issues that pulled him away, and that kind of momentum got dropped because I did like what his vision and where things were going with it. But I think they've recovered from that quite well, and I think their bigger issue is they keep employing Ezra Miller, and he keeps doing stupid shit. So. Maybe I can kind of see rethinking some things. I don't know if it needs a complete overhaul. The other part that was mentioned that is a little concerning to me is like, well, they've let key characters like Superman and Batman languish, and I'm like, those are the ones we need to focus on. And I'm like, really? Do we? I mean, we've gotten a lot of Superman and a lot of Batman, like ever since they've started doing DC movies. And I think a key strength to Marvel is they haven't remained focused on just one or two characters. They've branched out and they're like, hey, we got 900 characters. We got some interesting things here. Check this out. We got a talking raccoon. How about that? Whereas, like for DC, it seems like, well, it's been a couple years. We should reboot Superman again, and it's like, no, you really shouldn't.
We should reboot the Batman again. There you go.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, they have been some good movies, or good or bad to varying degrees, depending on your point of view. But I just don't think we need another. We don't need to tell Superman's origin again. We don't need Batman's origin again. I wanted to see more Aquaman. I was, it was great that they had a movie with Aquaman and Shazam, and let's see some of the, Wonder Woman is doing well. Let's see some of the other DC characters that, either haven't gotten a lot of spotlight or that are really great. I mean, on TV, we've gotten a little bit more of that. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking. I'm like, I don't know that it needs a complete overhaul, but I do agree that there needs to be someone kind of in a Kevin Feige type position to say,
maybe Kevin Feige's available. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also rumors that DC Comics itself might go up for sale, and maybe Marvel will buy them, and they'll just say, "Yeah, here you go. You can just have all this IP." And
I mean, they could let James Gunn be in charge of. I think they should let James Gunn be in charge of the DC universe, just because it would be so. Although I don't know that he'd want to. I think he enjoys his niche a little bit on the DC side to do characters that are not in the. I don't know if he'd. I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't want to do a Superman or a Batman movie. Maybe he would, but it would definitely be a different.
Yes.
And I will tell you this about the Batman. There is no origin of Batman in the Batman, which I thought was a good choice.
Good.
When they pick up the story, and this is common knowledge. It's not a spoiler for you. It's common knowledge that the story takes. I mean, he's been Batman for like 2 years already. So when the movie starts,
right.
As far as rebooting the DC universe, I think that you get a situation where you need a Feige, but it wasn't Feige necessarily who. Iron Man could have failed, right? Iron Man was a good movie, and it was it helped launch all that stuff. But if there hadn't been an Iron Man and an Iron Man 2 and a Thor and all those hadn't done well, we wouldn't have gotten to Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't think. They only came along because they tied in with, I mean, it's a great property, but I don't know that would have happened if these other films in sort of the Avengers kind of thing wouldn't have been successful. I mean, probably nothing would have happened. So it's a big gamble to make a fringe character of the main star of a movie, unless you have like someone like The Rock and you can do a Black Adam movie, or a Jason Momoa who can be an Aquaman. But Jason Momoa wouldn't have been Aquaman if there hadn't been a Superman or a Wonder Woman. And let's be honest, the second Wonder Woman wasn't fantastic either. So
true.
I don't know. I mean, I like the actors they've got for these characters, but I don't know if I need another Superman film right now, or honestly, I didn't really think I needed another Batman film. But I was pleasantly surprised. But it's just so I don't know. It's hard to reboot.
Here's the thing, though. Well, I guess I'm concerned if they're like, well, we need to reboot it, and we need something like Kevin Feige, and we need the Marvel model, and I'm like, why? I think that's kind of where...
Well, it's a successful model, that's why.
I get it, but I think, in my opinion, that's where kind of like the DC Extended Universe, whatever they called it, kind of fell apart and didn't really meet expectations, because it's like, well, you're trying to catch lightning in a bottle again. And it's someone else's lightning. It's not even yours. I mean, yes, they are both two superhero universes, Marvel and DC, but in the comics, they've never really been the same in tone and quality even. And to try to, well, we're just going to do the Marvel model, but we're just going to do it with different superheroes. It's like, but we already have that, and we're already watching that, and we're already invested in that. Why don't you figure out a way to do something different and connected instead of, because DC has never been, well, maybe not so much in the last couple decades or so, but it's always been kind of like, Marvel was like the world outside your window. You could live in New York and see, if you look out your window, kids, you might see Spider-Man swinging by, or you might see the Fantastic Four in their fantastic car. And DC has always been more kind of fantastical. Metropolis, the Shining City, Gotham City. They never really took place in real cities. They made up the cities, and they always featured kind of hand-wavy magical powers as opposed to science-based like Marvel. So to kind of try to follow the same model, to me, doesn't make sense. And I get it. Like you said, it's like, oh, this is successful. We could do that with our superheroes. Like, well, no, you really can't, because it's not the same. It's apples and oranges, and you're trying to make an apple salad with your oranges. No, it doesn't work. So anyway, that's just my opinion.
I also think they are different characters. You're right. I agree with that. And having the same sort of tone and the same sort of thing. I think what they're responding to is like, well, we need to try something, but they have, Marvel has a pretty good synergy, if you want to use that word, of drama and comedy. They have, some lighter moments, and they kind of get it. And the things that are successful, I mean, Superman was still successful. Henry Cavill did a great job, and I think that the first Wonder Woman movie was well made, and maybe they should let her do more. So I don't know. I feel like maybe the problem with DC movies is there's not one clear vision, like with Marvel films. I mean, Kevin Feige or whoever, it's probably a lot of him, but he's also really good at hiring people to do their jobs and keeping the overall creative thing going, but also letting them do their jobs, I think. And so he, it's a great system to be in. And would someone else flourish in that system that's not Kevin Feige? I don't know, maybe. But they also have to realize he's not going to be around forever. So I'm sure they'll have to do something. But yeah, that's why I like a person like James Gunn. Maybe that's the answer, or somebody like that. But again, I'm not sure he'd even want to do it. But you can't let these characters lie. You can't let them languish. You got to keep you got to keep pushing them out there. So I feel like in the next 5 years we'll see a new Superman film, and we'll see a new yet another Batman. Maybe Matt Reeves will do a Superman movie. I would be down for that. But this Batman is super gritty and super, grounded, if you want to call it that. I mean, the kid makes his own Batmobile, for God's sake. And it's very rainy and atmospheric and whatever, which is fine. And I would watch a Superman like that, but in a lot of ways, it's similar to, in some ways, I guess, what Zack Snyder was doing. It's sort of a darker take on things, and also what Nolan did with Batman that some people love and some people didn't like because it's too dark and too whatever. And DC is all light and happy, and so I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm glad it's not me, although I would like to take a swing at it. I would try it, but anyway.
I would. I mean, I think you kind of hit on it earlier on. Marvel they didn't start out making Iron Man going, okay, we got this plan, we're going to do these Avengers movies and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, well, let's make a really good movie. And even, the next couple movies, Hulk and Captain America, they're like, yeah, we can, let's have Sam Jackson show up in this one. Let's have Tony show up in the end credits on this one because, at least that signifies it's in the same universe. So I don't think they started out, maybe they were like drunk one night and were like, oh, it'd be so cool if we could do Avengers someday. But I think they started out like, let's make some really good movies first and foremost. And obviously later it was like, hey, this totally works. Now we can, crisscross, and we can have, basically an Avengers movie as a Captain America movie and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what they started out with. And it seemed like for their extended universe, DC was like, we need to have interconnectedness and we need to do all this. And it's like, and they push that up front. And it's like, maybe you should focus first on doing really good individual movies. And if they're successful and move things forward, like with Marvel, then you can go, okay, people do want to see this. They want to see more of this. And then eventually have a Justice League movie. It seemed like they were like planning for that right off the bat and kind of lost sight of the fact that we need to do some really solid movies first, right? So...
Right. Well, I would bet that they had that Marvel had a plan for Avengers. I mean, Captain America is called the first Avenger after all, so I feel like they had an overall plan.
But by then, but not like right off the bat.
Failed. Yeah. If those movies had failed, they wouldn't have continued. But they were successful for many reasons. They were good for one thing, but also people, I think, really responded to the characters. They responded to Robert Downey Jr. They responded to Chris Evans. I mean, Downey Jr. was a revelation as Tony Stark. I really think that was the role that he survived.
Yes.
His earlier life to play. I mean, it's a signature role, literally, which is why at the end of the whole 10-year franchise, they had their signatures at the end of the movie. But it's like that guy. Yes. Anyone else probably wouldn't have been able to launch the franchise. And Chris Evans was a fantastic Captain America. And Chris Hemsworth was a fantastic Thor. I mean, casting was a big deal. And I'm not saying that Henry Cavill's bad or Jason Momoa is bad or whatever. It's just I feel like there's some level of self-consciousness about their performances more than there is about with Downey Jr. just having fun with it. It's like he knows it's ridiculous, but they're not. They know it's funny, but they're not acting like it's funny in the movie. Whereas I feel like in some ways the DC actors, which I think is why Wonder Woman works so well, because she was not doing that. But in some cases, I feel like they're sort of parodying themselves almost. And maybe that's Zack Snyder. Maybe he's not the right person for this whole thing. And maybe a fresh eye, a fresh take is good. I mean, I don't know if Nolan would come back and do some more stuff, but I would be interested in seeing a Christopher Nolan Justice League movie for sure. But I don't know. It's a decision that I'm glad we don't have to make. It's very complicated.
Yes.
But I don't know. Yep. I don't know if rebooting everything is the way to do it. But then again, how are you going to proceed forward then with the actors that you already have? Plus, you got to imagine and yes, it's contract discussion time again, folks. You got to imagine that the
yes.
contracts are expiring. How many more movies does Henry Cavill have in his agreement? How many more movies does Jason Momoa have? Probably 3, right? He's going to do Aquaman 3.
Well, what's the time limit on those two? Cavill's probably got, I'm sure it was several movies over a certain number of years. Yeah. And, he hasn't done anything.
I'm sure he's still obligated. So. I'm sure he's still probably contractually bound for one more Superman film. And I'm sure Momoa, because he only did 2, really. So I'm sure they got him in for 3. And Momoa, Aquaman 2 is going to come out this year, and we'll see how that does. I'm sure they'll do a third one if it does well. And they'll probably do a third Wonder Woman, even though the second one was, I don't know what happened there. That was weird.
That was, just weird.
I kind of feel like there was maybe either too many studio notes, because it feels like there was too many hands on deck on that one, too many cooks. Because the first one, they're like, oh, go make your little Wonder Woman movie that no one cares about, maybe. I don't know. I feel like Patty Jenkins is, I mean, kind of, right? It's like you just go make your little indie Wonder Woman movie, and then it was successful, and they're like, oh, now we need to have notes, and now we need to get in there and tinker with this thing and whatever. And so it was just, or they left her more alone, and this is what happened. So I don't know. It was a strange thing. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I keep saying I don't know. And, the answer is I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. Yeah. It's fun to watch. I just think rebooting things is a dumb idea sometimes, but then maybe it's the best idea ever. I don't know.
Well, my question, though, is like, well, what do you mean by that? Because they still have movies that they're making or have made that haven't come out yet. There's another Shazam. There's another Aquaman. There's Black Adam. So are you talking like you're going to...
And the Flash movie, which they're going to release eventually, I'm sure.
So I'm like, are you going to scrap those and like just take a break for a couple years and then reboot it? Or are you going to wait another 5 years until all those movies come out and then reboot it? So it's like, what does that actually mean?
Right. I thought I liked Shazam. I thought it was pretty good. And I think that Black Adam is going to be interesting. And Shazam 2, I know they're making that. But yeah, you're right. It's like, what point do you reboot? I think maybe what they're talking about more is their like big marquee characters like Superman or maybe Batman. But I think they're going to see how well The Batman does, and maybe Matt Reeves will do another The Batman. I keep saying The Batman because it says The Batman.
The Batman, yes.
And
do they call him The Batman in the movie?
God, that's a good question. They do, I think. Maybe this is the end for the Batman. Yeah, they do actually. I think the Batman calls himself the Batman sometimes.
I am the Batman.
Yeah. And so maybe they have the Joker, and they have they don't have the Joker. They have the unknown Arkham Asylum inmate. Sorry.
That's going to be the reboot and now we have we have the Superman movie coming out and the Shazam
and the Wonder Woman and the Green Lantern.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it actually is the Green Lantern. I would like to see another Green Lantern movie, not necessarily with Ryan Reynolds, but I would like to see a well done.
They're doing a series on HBO Max, Green Lantern Corps. So
maybe you've hit on the solution. Maybe the solution is that all DC properties should be on HBO Max. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think
then they could do whatever
success.
They could be R-rated. Like I thought Titans. I think that's a great show.
Yes, it's really
Robin
good. Doom Patrol is great.
Dick gets to say "fuck Batman," which I really thought was cool. In the first episode, he's like "fuck Batman." I'm like, yes, I want to see this show. This is a good show. I don't think he meant literally. I hope, but maybe I don't know.
I think DC has done far better with TV series than they have.
They really have
in recent years. So,
will Grant Gustin replace Ezra Miller? That's a question that everybody's asking. I don't know.
Played the character for like 9 years. I don't think he's.
I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't just hire him in the first place, but whatever. Because I guess they like, TV is just TV. No one cares about that. But I think he's great as the Flash and great as Barry too.
Yeah.
But I will say, Ezra Miller has his issues, but he was also really good as the Flash. I thought too.
No, he was fantastic. Even the little, apparently there's lots of footage of that little cameo at the end of Peacemaker where Momoa and Ezra Miller just riff and go off, and it's like, man, I'd like to see that. But he's obviously got some problems. I think maybe he's got a drinking problem or whatever. We don't have to get into it, but they apparently lifted the restraining order off of him. He's not having the couple in Hawaii drop their whatever. So. I don't know. He's got some issues that he needs to work out. I mean, he's only 29 years old too. I mean, it's kind of like, not that he should, you should know better. Not that that's an excuse, but maybe he's not comfortable. I don't know. Maybe he's not comfortable with success. Maybe he's just got substance abuse issues, which causes people to act strangely. I mean, maybe he's still trying to figure out who he is, and he's not comfortable with it. I don't know.
Maybe that's right. Maybe he's trying to figure it out. Again, not excusing behavior. You shouldn't grab people and try to hurt them. That's not okay. No. I don't care what you're struggling with. You shouldn't slap people either, but there you go.
There you go.
That happens. So anyway, let's segue out of this, please.
Yes. Let's get out of this.
Let's get out of this topic and go to the future past, the path not taken, as it were, and discuss
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. I like this episode of Picard, even though I was a little, and this is spoilers for Star Trek Picard if you haven't watched episode 4. I was a little bit like, oh, they're gonna go into his mind. This again. It's gonna be some weird psycho whatever thing. And I was a little, I don't know why that's burned me in the past. It just bothers me. I don't know when they do because I'm like that. Oh, it's a psychological episode. Oh, boo. But this was handled well. And we got some good insight into Jean-Luc as a boy. But I really liked the reveal of who the Shrink was. And I really like that actor. Obviously, James Callis is awesome. One of my favorites from Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
But it was interesting to find out who he was in the show. And that's canon now, I guess. So it was pretty cool.
I'll be honest. I think I've seen this kind of storyline, or maybe I've watched too much TV and movies, but as soon as Callis appeared and I knew it was in his mind, I'm like, oh, that's going to be his dad. Yeah. I was just like, that's going to be his dad, which it was still like cool. And I like the fact that Picard, even though, even from the moment we met him in the beginning of Next Generation to even through now, he's always been this like confident, tried and true captain and person who had, morally upstanding, who always gives people the benefit of the doubt, and who, always comes through as a champion for the oppressed. And for the last like around 80 years of his life, he's hated his father and, loved his mother above all. And it turns out it's not the way he remembers it. It was like, wow, that's got to be a huge, huge revelation for that character. And it totally explains why he's, been resistant to affairs of the heart and trusting and letting someone in for his whole life. And it's like, wow, that was kind of huge.
Well, I'm sure that's one of the reasons that Patrick Stewart wanted to do this at all. It's like you finally gonna, because you have to be sort of the stoic person in charge. I mean, you see a little bit of the armor break in First Contact, and the little bit of the confidence, a little bit of the, he gets angry and he does other things, and then this whole series is basically deconstructing Jean-Luc Picard, right? It's like, here's what the real Picard is, and here's what his motivation has been this entire time, and this is, it's a great revelation. I mean, I kind of suspected he had issues, family issues and whatever, because he's very weird about having kids. He's very weird about, any relationship, like you said. And there's not even that many times when they talk about like him having girlfriends or relationships of any kind,
right.
Really.
Right.
He's basically like, nope, don't have time for that. I'm going to space because I'm going to look up and that's all I care about. I love space and I'm going to throw myself into my work, which people do. And he even has that speech, like there's more years behind than ahead.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm thinking about my life and I'm thinking about this, and that's why they call back to that movie so much. But yeah, it's cool to see, and he's playing it really well. And Callus was great. And the line where he's like, "Oh, you live longer than me, but I kept my hair." I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes,
Callus was excellent in this episode. They all were, actually, and we didn't get as much Borg Queen 2.0, but I think that's coming. And the thing I also liked was Jerry Ryan's performance when she kind of like starts touching the keyboard and whatever. It's like, oh, this is Borg code, and she gets progressively, which I thought was interesting, the way she's playing things in the scenes. As the scenes go on, she gets progressively more like worried, because this is, it's a world where we have no defense against the Borg, and she's going to basically, take over the entire universe. So they need to get her the frack out of there. But I said frack, sorry.
Nice.
Battlestar Galactica reference, everyone.
Yes.
But yeah, I like this episode a lot. It was I was worried that it was going to be too much, too in Jean-Luc's head, but it actually was fine. And there's more about your theory about Rios and the Doctor. I'm like, man, they really seem to be hitting it off. So is he going to stay behind? Maybe you're right. Maybe he's going to leave the show. I don't know.
I would really hate that, because I like that character. But it's going to go one way or the other, because I mean, he even brings them to the ship. So are they going to go with him to the future? I don't know. It's like, it's weird. I don't know which way they're going to go with that. And this is the kind of show that it could go either way. I do like, so I know a lot of people, there are a lot of folks online that are very vocal against this episode, because they're like, oh my God, it drags, and it doesn't tie into anything, and blah, blah, blah. And I will remind everyone.
I would say it ties into everything, but yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, the only piece that doesn't fit is why I still think that everything they're experiencing, including Picard figuring this out in his mind, is being not guided by, but is, for whatever reason, Q wants it to happen this way. And I don't know why. And well, I'm sure we'll find out, but it seems like, because they even question that, it's like, what does this have to do with Q, and why is he making me go through this? And even Talon's like, well, maybe we should find him and find out, right? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go find him. So it's Michael Chabon and now Terry Matalas were very clear about this show, and even Patrick Stewart too was like, this isn't going to be like a Star Trek all phasers firing type of show. It's going to be more of a character study of Picard for 3 years. And that's exactly what we're getting. And I think it's fascinating. I really, really enjoy that. So, and we even got Guinan back this week too.
Yeah. I wonder why her calling the Q didn't work, except I guess the reason is that Q doesn't have his powers anymore. So he can't just appear whenever he wants to.
Right.
He's having issues. He's having performance issues.
He needs some space Viagra or something.
He does. He needs a space blue pill. I will say that the trope of, and it is a trope, the trope of the cop coming in. That's Jay Carnes from The Shield, by the way, everyone. At the end.
Yeah. Go ahead and say what you have to say, but I have some very interesting.
No, it's just
to say about that.
Well, you think he's actually a character who's related to somebody else in the show.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's I saw you online. I know you're trying to get Terry Matalas to respond to you.
He did. He liked it. That was great.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah. Well, they show his they go to the trouble of him showing his credentials. So obviously they wanted everyone to see his name. But yeah, it's just that kind of thing was like, oh, I'm like, oh, he's a cop or something or a Fed. Because as soon as he came in the bar, I knew probably because he's played a lot of cops and Feds in his career, and I felt kind of bad.
Well, he acted just like Columbo. It's like, oh, one more thing kind of thing. It's like, huh?
Yeah. It's, by the way, you're busted. Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, I know we need some sort of conflict, and it can't be. It's not going to be a big action sequence with Picard and Guinan running through the streets shooting phasers and whatnot. It's going to be something where Patrick Stewart can sit basically and do it.
Jeez, you're really worried about him. I don't think you need.
I'm not
to
worried.
Fine.
I'm not worried about him. I'm just they're not going to make him do a lot of physical action. This is not going to do that. But
sure.
But like you said, this isn't a show about that. It's a show. It's more of an intellectual show, and so it's more of a character study about this character and about his life. And this is basically Picard. This is your life. Why have you done all these things you've done? Why have you lived this way? And that's why it makes perfect sense that all the Next Generation cast, all those characters have to come back at the end, and finally, almost like have an intervention maybe with Picard. It's like you were, or maybe it's like, you were the person that did this. Or maybe they're going to talk about like, all the ways that he inspired them so he can remember the man that he is and how he's affected other people's lives. And maybe he hasn't had a family, but he's had an extended family, and how he's been like an inspiration to all of them and things like that. And then by his friendship and by his other things. So I'm sure that's part of it. But I really like the fact that they're doing that with this character. And I can't think of anyone better to be doing it than Patrick Stewart. He's just killing it every episode. It's just, he's super good, obviously. And just, and everyone else around him is good. And I'm enjoying the show a lot, and I'll be sad. I mean, we got another season, but I'll be sad when it's over in some ways, because that's kind of like will be the end of an era of shows that I watched all the way since I was a kid. And now it's like this main character that meant a lot to me and to other people will be done. And that'll be it, which will be kind of a sad, bittersweet time. But I'm looking forward to the journey anyway. So there's that.
So I'm going to say why I'm excited about Jay Carnes.
Oh yeah, please say why you're excited about Jay Carnes. Yeah.
So Jay Carnes also played an FBI agent on Terry Matalas's other show, 12 Monkeys. They first encountered him, and it's a show about time travel, in case anyone doesn't know. And they keep going back in time to try to figure out this plague. And they encounter his FBI agent in the 40s, and they encounter him multiple times. He becomes a recurring character through the 40s, all the way through the 60s at various points. And at first, he's like thinking they're terrorists, and he wants to arrest them, but he ends up becoming an ally to them, because he's like, look, I've seen you, this is the first time I've seen you in like 10 years, and you look exactly the same. And so I believe you're a time traveler. And kind of he gets in on what they're doing. And it was really fascinating. So the fact that the same actor is playing an FBI agent that is dealing with people that are time traveling. I totally was joking about my question to Terry Matalas about whether he had a relative named Robert Gale. I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be, there's not going to be a 12 Monkeys Star Trek crossover. I'm not, that would be cool.
There's not going to be a monkey's paw in this episode. Wait.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But the fact that, although Guinan did kind of do, she does that little hook thing with her hands when she's talking about cues, but
she does.
It was just really cool seeing. I'm like, oh, Terry, you sly devil. So seeing Jay Carnes play an FBI agent in a similar situation, I expect that in some fashion he's going to believe their story as much as they tell him and become an ally somehow, maybe, or maybe it's like, let's flip the expectations, and there's a certain viewership that will expect that, and he ends up being like a version of Q or an ally of Q or something, maybe. I don't know. But I hope he gets more
temporal detective.
Yeah, maybe he's Gary Seven. Maybe. So, I don't know. But I was very excited by that. So
in the credits, he's listed as Agent Wells, which is also a time travel reference.
Right. So. Exactly. Well, yeah, Gale was kind of reference too to Dorothy Gale from Wizard of Oz. So I know she didn't time travel, but still.
But she did travel into it, yeah.
And I just like Jay Carnes anyway, so I'm glad to see him on the show.
Yeah, he's great, and I think that I think you're right. Maybe they will sort of not go with the way that people think. They will maybe circumvent expectations a little bit. Maybe he'll become an ally, but maybe he is. I don't think he's Gary Seven, but maybe he is, because there's like a temporal detective agency, not detective agency, but like a police force in Star Trek, isn't there? Kind of like, I can't remember what they're called, but there's like a anyway,
it's like temporal intervention agency or something like that.
Yeah, it's they protect the space time continuum, etc. So maybe he's one of those guys. Or it's what we think it is, but maybe he will believe them, or maybe he's like, I've always known there was people in, whatever. Or maybe he is a Q. Maybe he's just a different kind of Q, or whatever. But I know he's in more than one episode, hopefully, and so we'll find out more next week. But I was like, oh, really, a cop? But then I thought about it more before you and I got together for this, and I realized that it's got to be more than meets the eye. They're not going to bring him in. I mean, maybe he and Terry Matalas are just friends or whatever, but he's right, and he has that. I mean, he has that sort of, I want to say, actor baggage in a way, because he's played cops and guys so much that you expect him. It's like if you bring in Dennis Franz, it's like he's a cop, right, or somebody, right. So this guy's like, oh, he's recognizable as a policeman, whatever, and so he could do something different. So I'll be interested to see what they do with him next week. But yeah, he was. If you've never seen The Shield, by the way, folks, it's a fantastic show. Oh, yeah. You should watch it. Talk about circumventing expectations, by the way. What a great, one of the greatest season or series finales of any TV show ever. I'm just going to say that.
It was it doesn't happen very often, but that was an absolutely perfect series ender. Anyway.
It really was. You have to have watched the entire show to understand why. Yes. But it is perfect. And I've actually said this several times, including to Sean Ryan, and he was appreciative. But it's like, I'm sure he gets that a lot. But it's hard to nail an ending of a show. Just look at other shows. People get pissed off. Like Lost is a great example. People hated that episode, that ending.
Yes,
but this was an amazing ending, and it was. It's so funny. I was doing some research for this episode that you and I are recording right now, and I was looking at like endings of TV shows, because I was trying to think about the ending of Picard and how Moon Knight is going to end, which we're going to get to in a second. And I came across the ending of Dallas with JR basically having a moment with like a guy who turns out to be the devil. And like he's got to kill himself to make everything, because everyone hates him, so he's got to kill himself. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Which is weird from a show, I guess not that weird, where Bobby comes back and is like, it's all been a dream sequence. He wasn't really dead. That was one of the big twists in that show. If everybody watched Dallas back in the day, but Bobby's just in the shower. He's not dead, everyone. And then JR is like,
the whole season was, yeah.
Exactly. People probably don't know what I'm talking about with Dallas. Like, that's an old show. I mean, and also the other series finale, which you and I have talked about before, was the Bob Newhart finale, which was also, I'm sorry, the Newhart finale, which was fucking awesome too.
That was perfect.
Another. They nailed
another one is MASH. That had a perfect ending as well. So.
They just left. There's like, they got in the helicopter and flew away. It's like, oh, that's the end. Woo, we're done. No, I'm kidding.
This Korean War feels like it's been. Yeah, the Korean War feels like it's been twice as long as it should have been. It's like, well, yeah, it was. But
and that show would have been super poignant if they'd never done After MASH. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
no one needed a sequel to MASH. I'm sorry, but
you don't always need a follow up. So
you don't always need a follow up. You don't like more American Graffiti. I didn't need that. No offense.
No.
But it's like they show you what happens to the characters at the end of the first one. It's like, okay, it's like we don't need a more Animal House. Mr. and Mrs. Senator Blutarsky. It's like, okay, he becomes a senator because that makes sense. Anyway,
right.
And if you haven't seen Animal House, I don't even know what you're doing with your life. But anyway, let's talk about. Are we done with Picard? Because we're gonna come back to it again and again for a few more weeks, and then of course in the third season we'll come back to it and talk about it some more. But do you want to talk about Moon Knight a little bit?
Yes, let's talk about Moon Knight.
I like saying Moon Knight. I don't know why. So yes, your thoughts about this episode, Joe?
I liked it for the most part, but I had a serious a couple serious problems with it.
Oh, let's hear that. This should be good.
Well,
Go
I've
ahead.
tried to explain this. The whole Council of the Gods thing was done poorly, extremely poorly. Because I mean, all Khonshu or Mark or whoever had to say was, he's digging in the desert right now. Go look.
Yeah.
Instead, he's like, oh, this poor deluded soul. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll believe you. I just...
Well, I expected the avatar of the guy who was doing all talking. I don't know if it was Osiris or whatever, but the guy who was mostly in charge to show his sleeve. He's got a tattoo for
right
Abed or whatever, Ahmet. So he's he was one of the followers of Ethan Hawke's character. I thought it was going to be the reveal. It's why is he being such a dick to Khonshu and so totally taking Ethan Hawke's side? But they didn't reveal that. So, but yeah, that scene was weird. The whole thing was weird. It was played weird, and I didn't enjoy the performances. I don't know. Oscar Isaac was doing something.
And here's my other thing too, because they're obviously the other gods are like, yeah, if you do some hinky god shit, we're going to imprison you, right? Or we're going to punish you. So right then, Mark Spector should have been like, cool, I'm going to go home and kick up my feet, because if Amit shows up and starts murdering people before they're evil, then the gods are going to step in and stop it. So I'm like, well, you've taken away. Yeah. So I'm like, what is even the point of the show now? So I just
because they're not gonna step in because the humans have abandoned them, and so they don't care about the humans anymore. So F them. But they care enough to have a meeting about it when Khonshu decides to make the moon be a.
Well, he's changed the night sky. He changed the night sky. He didn't even interfere with any people, and they put him in stone. So if she shows up and starts en masse killing people, I mean,
I'm saying, what was he doing though to change the night sky? Was that time travel, or what was happening? Because he's returning the sky to the time it was.
Well,
was he going back in time, or what? What was going on there? That seemed
pretty, everybody else in present day saw it though, because they had reaction shots from people in the city going, "Whoa, look at those lights in the sky!" Right?
Right, but then what happens to all the people who are in space? What about the astronauts? What about what about people off what about people off the Earth? I mean, was he spinning the globe super fast off the Earth?
Yeah.
Was this like Superman going back in time, spinning around the globe and reversing time, or what was happening? It was visually it was cool, and maybe
it made no sense
to be. But it's like, what is happening? Is it if it's an illusion, or is he really going back in time? Or I mean, yeah, it was kind of out of the blue. I feel like it was just like one of those things where, well, it would look cool. Let's just do that. It didn't make much sense for the story. It's like, why do we have to find out where they are? Because it doesn't matter. They already found the tomb. And I don't know. It was just, this episode seemed, and there's only like two more episodes left. Which is
and my other thing was, it's like, oh, it's how the night sky was like 2,000 years ago. There's no way we can know that. It's like, use the fucking internet. I mean, there's there's observatories and stuff. There's like whole swaths of scientists that have models for that. I mean, granted, it's like, oh, maybe we don't have time for that, but they didn't even like bother to say, well, they know all these other people. It's like, oh, we should contact so and so. He could probably tell us, right? It was like, no, we got to use this thing to turn back time and take Khonshu off the board. So I was just
that's what it was for. It was like, we need some way to get Khonshu in stone, so Ethan Hawke can hold him in his hand and go, "Thank you, man. Thank you for my, for allowing me to do this kind of shit." To realizing that I love violence, it's super cool. So,
right. So it was just, I guess this is the episode where it fell apart, and it started so well because there's like hints now that there's. I don't know if it was Khonshu taking over or if there's a third personality, which could be
it's supposed
Jake
to be
Lockley.
The cabbie, whatever.
Yeah,
why
so
is Jake Lockley
like,
such a psycho?
Right, for a cabbie.
Straight up murdering dude. What is he like? Fucking Robert De Niro's character from Taxi Driver? Is he Travis Bickle?
Maybe
here, or what?
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
but, I don't know. This episode, it's unfortunate because the show sort of, I don't know. I feel like this is an episode where there was a lot of notes. This feels like a mini Fingers episode where people are like, well, yeah, what about this? What about this? What about this? There didn't seem to be like a clear sort of idea of what was happening, and and the actors were game to do whatever. Actually, the most interesting part for me was the stuff at the beginning where she's getting her new ID and that whole interaction with that character. That character was fascinating. Talking about her father and all that stuff. It's like I would like to know more about that. That I find her more of an interesting character than Mark. And I mean, you could do a movie with her and Ethan Hawke's character. Would have been I mean, nothing against Oscar Isaac. I think he's great, but I don't know that. It's almost like, why do we even have Moon Knight as a superhero character? Because it's like, well, that's fine. But even the fights were sort of lame in a way. They weren't really well staged. And that character, Gaspar Ulliot's character, was like, why is he? I mean, he's somebody important in the DCU. I mean, I can't remember why. He's like a collector of this kind of thing, and he's like more important. But he just seemed like I saw some quote. It was like he just seemed like a boss level guy that they had to get through to solve a puzzle, and that's absolutely what it felt like to me. That's absolutely true. Because he was not. There was no development for him at all. It was interesting. They do talk about Madripoor though, which. Some people were speculating. Are we going to see? What's her face show up? No. Are we going to see what's her face show up?
Agent 13, Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter, yeah. Because she's in Madripoor. Are we going to see her show up at some point?
No, I think that was just a name drop. So
it might have been, but I didn't understand what they were doing. Were they like jousting, or was like none of this made sense, and it wasn't explained very well, and. I think it was just like now you can see how badass Layla is, and and Khonshu's suit is important because it kept Mark from dying after he got stabbed 40 times. So it's like, what was
the point? It seemed like this was the episode where there was like, okay, this is the halfway point. We have 3 more episodes left. Oh shit, we got to get a lot of stuff set up and moved into place. And it was just like,
maybe.
Well, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. We just got to get this here because. This has to happen in the last 3 episodes, and I'm like, it just it just kind of fell apart. It seemed like to me, and that was too bad. I'm sad because before that it was really good show, and I don't know when
it was a show about a guy exploring his mental illness. That was interesting to me, and it was visually interesting, and it was more of a personal story, and I felt like the stakes were. More like, oh, I care about Mark. I mean, I don't care about Mark as much as I do Steven. It's like, what's going to happen to this guy? This episode, I didn't feel that at all, because Mark was like kind of more of a dick now, and Steven's like more of a whiny little bitch a little bit. I hate to say that, but but at least he did something. He helped them solve the puzzle, which was useful. I don't know. I think you're right. Maybe it was like we need to move shit in place. It was like a not a filler episode, but it's like we got to do all this stuff. And I'm still confused about the time travel or moving the sky. And I feel like it was all to get Khonshu off the board, like you said. And that was handled. It was handled poorly.
Yes.
And it had a lot of promise, and maybe it will redeem itself as it goes on. But it definitely was not a high point. Although I will say, Oscar Isaac's fight training has proven useful because that fight on the roof was pretty good. I thought.
Yes. But especially when, as you say, they establish at the beginning that, Layla at least knows this person that can do expert level identities.
Yeah.
They know that guy that had the jousting people or whatever, who's like an expert at something. It's like, so you're telling me they don't know, or at least know someone who knows a scientist that they could... Especially him having worked in a museum, it's like there's nobody that they could have called and said, hey, is there any way we can get a model of the night sky? Because those exist. I mean, there's like stories and articles about it all the time.
So, no time for that, man. What are they going to do? Have them sit at a desk and like do computer shit? That's boring. It's got to be visual, man. It's a TV show, it's a movie, whatever.
Yeah, it's gotta be
whatever.
I don't like when characters turn dumb to get a story moving forward, and that to me felt like that's what this episode was like. We're going to show you how competent and resourceful they are for the first few minutes, and then completely ignore that and show everyone making really, I mean, even like in the trial with the gods, he doesn't say anything like, well, here's what he's done, here's the people Harrow is killed, he's digging in the desert right now. None of that. Just saying, but he wants to bring her back. That's all. He just kept saying that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? That's stupid. It was just. It was.
Well, that wasn't.
It was
I mean,
dumb.
I guess that wasn't him though. That was Khonshu speaking through him, right? So maybe.
But Khonshu would know.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it was all just to get him in stone,
Yes.
to take him off the
Yeah.
board, and just to make sure that Mark is out there in the wind, and whatever, gaslighting the mentally ill guy, and just you got to deal with your own shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. You know what? We'll see.
It was a really dumb episode, and it was really. I'm getting more angry about it as we talk about it, because I'm like, did you just suddenly fire all your writers and bring in someone that was like, I don't really know what the show's about, but here's what you should do. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, what?
No, it's like anything. As you know, I'm sure this was meticulously planned, and this episode was, maybe this was the most complicated one to do, and they had to get a lot of stuff, out in the world, and move a lot of pieces into place for the finale or whatever. It's just there was a lot of stuff happening, and they just didn't handle it very well. Maybe it was just not everyone's going to be a home run. I'm sure there was planning. I'm sure from what I know about their production schedule, it's like they got together a lot. They did a lot of rehearsals. They did a lot of this, all kinds of stuff, and they planned everything very closely. And also, I also heard that. Wow, that's great, Chris. That of all the Marvel shows, this one had probably the fewest number of reshoots or pickup days, which is interesting. So they didn't do a lot of reshooting or whatever. But who knows? It's just every episode can't be perfect, and obviously I'm going to keep watching. So
Yes.
and see how it goes. It's only 3 more episodes. Maybe is this a case where this show is too long? Or could they have done it in a fewer number of episodes? Or could it be, because I'm thinking about all the other Marvel shows. There was always, it seems like there was usually or maybe one episode that kind of dragged or whatever.
I feel the opposite. I think they needed a couple more episodes, because this episode felt like there was too much and too much rushing to get to a certain point, because the next 3 episodes we have to be here by then. It's like I think some of the stuff, especially like the whole Council of the Gods and all that kind of stuff, could have had a little bit more breathing room, or at least been talked about like earlier, because that just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it could have used some more room. It seems like this is, there's just too much going on in this, and they did it. They did all of it in a way that just was not good. So,
yeah, I did like the fact that even though they didn't really spend a lot of time with it, they did have Khonshu. There was this shot with him standing above the clock and it was striking midnight. That was, I'm sure, a reference to Anton Mogart, who was Gaspar Ulliel's character, was supposed to be Midnight Man, right? So it's like,
right.
That was kind of cool, but they didn't really develop any of that, and then he ends up, getting killed. But whatever. But he's like a recurring character in Moon Knight comics. But obviously, I guess it wasn't him, or it wasn't supposed to be him, or maybe it was. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it would have needed an extra episode to just sort of let it go and develop stuff more. But it definitely was a misstep. And I won't like hate the show because of it. I'll just be like, okay, guys, do better next time and finish strong, right? Finish strong. That's the key. And so let's hope it does.
Yes.
I hope it does.
Yeah.
So what's your let's go on to picks. What's your pick this week, my friend?
Picks. I'm gonna pick a movie that I recently saw. Death on the Nile.
Oh yeah, that was good. I like that.
I'm going to say that I've really enjoyed the 2 Agatha Christie adaptations that Kenneth Branagh has done, both directing and starring in as Hercule Poirot. I know I said that horribly. But I really loved both the movies. I feel Death on the Nile was, I don't know, they were both really interesting, and I like the fact that Branagh is also directing this. I gotta say, he's a really good director. I don't think he's not like a I don't know though. He's a really really good director. He makes great choices. He gets really really good performances out of everybody that he casts. And I think he did great in the lead role, and both of these have been really good. I hear they want to do more, and I'm all for that. So yeah, no, I Death on the Nile. I won't even say it was the better of the two because I like them both equally. So maybe my pick is the Poirot adaptations by Branagh. So you should see them if you haven't. They're really really good movies. Visually great, outstanding performances, and the stories, of course, are Agatha Christie is a pretty decent writer. So. Or was.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you kind of know. I've seen this movie before, but it's because I like Agatha Christie. I like mysteries, but this one, I think, of the two, is to me more visually interesting because of the scenery.
Yes.
And they built the Karnak, which I think is awesome. The ship in the movie that they're all on, or the river boat, or what you want to call it. It's a beautiful, and then some of the night stuff is really beautiful, and the camera movement and all that stuff. It's a beautiful film from a cinematography standpoint. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think more than the first one because I just liked all the characters. I thought that everybody was uniformly good. Like Annette Bening in particular, I thought was great. Gal Gadot was really good, playing kind of a bitchy role, which is different for her, not kind of the heroine in a way. Even Armie Hammer, Cannibal Hammer is fine. Was fine too. But, I'm just kidding.
I will say that the thing that stuck out. Well, and Letitia Wright, but for a long time, British comedy fans having a movie with Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders together again for the first time in a while was outstanding, especially kind of the reveal about their characters. But it was really, really good and a lot of fun. And it looked like everyone was having a good time making the movie too. So
yeah, that comes across. I think people were really enjoying themselves. And I don't remember seeing this bit before. I don't know if it's in the book or whatever, but I liked how they sort of explain why Poirot has his mustache, which I thought was a great bit. And it was good to open up the movie so it doesn't just take place in one place. It was good to open it up and see him younger and kind of like a backstory issue with him. And see why maybe, he's taken, it's the road not taken for Poirot too, a little bit. And so, but by the end, maybe he's thinking about romance again. But it's just, I thought that was a good bit of business for him and a good sort of backstory and a character development thing for the character. And at the end, he's like, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it's just there's a good payoff of that whole thing, I think. And the movie, I think this one, I would agree with you. I really enjoyed this, and I would say that it was probably of the two, Branagh, Agatha Christie adaptation is probably my favorite one. So there's going to be more. So she's got a lot more books. So don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to them. I cannot wait to see another one. And that was kind of my thought after watching both. I kind of watched both of these back to back, and it was like, yep, I'm ready for more. So. Well done.
Agatha Christie has a lot of books. I mean, she's got Miss Marple too, right? So
yes.
You could do that. You could do all the stuff. There's probably a lot of lesser known things.
Well, there was one that Hugh Laurie just adapted for as a 3-part TV series.
Make a home.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, that is not even. It's not a Marple or Poirot story. So there's lots. Yeah, she wrote like 60 some books, and I think not all of them were Marple or Poirot. So
they're also. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just hoping that this sees more adaptations, but yeah, I definitely want to see Branagh continue with this character and directing more of the Poirot. I say it differently every time because I'm not very good at saying
Hercule Poirot. Yeah, I don't know.
Hercule, yes.
It's also a good role for him, and it's also a good role for, because there's not a lot of roles for, women of a certain age in Hollywood. So the fact that this has all kinds of different characters and they can be of various ages and ethnicities, it gives a lot of, parts to people, which is great, I think, too. And good for him because, he's like a middle-aged white dude. Not that he doesn't get work, but he's able to employ a lot of people, which I think is great. Oh, you know who also was a surprise in this movie was Russell Brand. I thought he was actually really
Yeah.
good. I was
He was
shocked.
totally
That's Russell
against
Brand.
type. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
I will
good.
say this, Branagh seems to traditionally play some really nasty pieces of work in the
Yeah,
roles, and seeing him play someone that's somewhat whimsical is kind of nice. And the other thing too I appreciate about the character, and I haven't read the books, shocking. So I don't know if he's portrayed this way in the books, but at least in this movie, there's a lot of considering the time in which they're set. He
yeah,
is like completely non-judgmental about everybody. He takes people
yeah,
at face value as to who they are, and they'll either show who they are or whatever. But it doesn't matter sexual orientation, ethnicity, profession. He doesn't care. He's equally nice initially to everyone, and I thought that was kind of a interesting way to play it. So it was kind of nice.
yeah.
And you'll know what I mean when
Yeah,
you
I
watch
mean, I'm
the
sure.
movies. So
Yeah, I'm sure that's more like updating it for the times, because I would
right.
imagine that Agatha Christie, when she wrote the books, everyone was a white person, So
Well, yeah, you're probably right. White straight
except
person.
except except maybe Salome. Maybe she was a person of color. It's hard to. I can't remember. I
Could
haven't
be.
read I haven't read the book either. So because she was a jazz singer, so they
Right,
were all
right.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, it's cool. I'm glad you picked that. That's a good recommendation for people. My pick is also a movie that we talked about briefly during this episode, and I finally got a chance to see, called The Batman.
Really?
It's coming out on yeah, weird. It's coming out on digital, on Monday the 18th, which is the day before this episode drops. So it would have already been out by the time you're hearing this. But so that's good, and it's definitely not something that I was looking forward to necessarily. It's like, okay, another Batman film. Great. I like Batman. Why not? Let's see another one, a different take on it. I like Matt Reeves' work as a director. I think he's a superb filmmaker. And this is basically Matt Reeves' Batman, where it's in a lot of ways much different than obviously Tim Burton's, although Tim Burton's was sort of dark, but this is super dark. And
Yeah.
it's different than Christopher Nolan's in a lot of ways, and it's him putting his own sort of stamp on it in a way, and it's visually very, very interesting, and the characters are interesting, and it's a well done movie, and there's more Batman being a detective, which I know people were happy about, and Pattinson is quite good, and Zoe Kravitz though is a breakout, I think, in this for sure. Not that she wasn't already popular, but I think this will give her a lot more work because she's really good in this one. Even though people are going to balk at some of her lines, like, oh, it's like all about rich white men and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's what someone like that would say. It's not that hard to
Right.
believe, calm down,
Right.
fanboys. And so if that's the most controversial thing, it's like, oh, it's going to be woke Batman. Like, oh, shut up, please. Anyway, it's really good. And if you haven't seen it, if you haven't had a chance to, or didn't go to the theaters, I would say it's one of the best Batman adaptations to the screen that's been made so far. Simply because it's just it's different enough and innovative enough to be cool, but not like so weird and off-putting that it's not like familiar too. And Jeffrey Wright's
Cool.
excellent. Colin Farrell's excellent. Everyone is really good in it. It's definitely worth watching. So go see the Batman in the theater, because that's better for the movie. But if you're gonna wait till digital, that's fine too. And just watch it and enjoy. And probably there'll be another one. So Batman Returns or whatever. So we'll see. But yeah, it was cool.
Returns again for the third time. I don't know, but yes.
Yeah, Batman's back again. Again, he hasn't gone anywhere. He's just hanging out. Oh, I forgot to mention. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anything else, Joe? Oh, we should tell people where to find the show. I guess Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the places you find podcasts. Feel free to give the show a rating or review. Ratings are great. Higher ratings better, but be honest. If you hate the show, that's okay too. But just tell us why, and maybe we can, make an adjustment. Probably not. We probably won't listen to you if you're a hater, but maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
And you can even listen to
positive
the
comments
show.
are-
You can even listen to the show right in Facebook too, because we post the
That's true. You can.
actual live podcast show right there in Facebook, so you can not
yeah, it
live,
drops in
but,
there.
I mean, yeah.
Well, as live as it gets for us, but we're live
Sure.
right now. But by the time you hear this, it's recorded. So,
Right.
we haven't done it. We haven't done a Twitch stream or anything yet. But and we keep threatening to do video. I know, but it hasn't happened yet. So maybe people don't want to see this. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'm barely wearing clothes right now. So
Right. I haven't. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm in my
see.
I'm in my
Maybe someday.
pajamas.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. In the meantime, give a rating or review, and if you feel like supporting the show with your hard-earned cash, that's great. Patreon.com/TheFlickcast, and then you can find us on the socials at TheFlickcast, and Joe is at What Joe Writes. I am at Chris U, and then Ulrich Picks on Instagram, and all that stuff. So you can, it's all at our link tree, which is what all the kids are doing now. So we have our own link tree, linktr.ee/TheFlickcast. If I have to spell it, it's cumbersome to say. It's very cumbersome to say, but it is the thing. And of course, theflickcast.com, the website, which has all the links to everything you could possibly want. All the linkage to the links. Anyway.
Yes.
Anything else, Joe?
I think that's probably it. That's a good.
All right, that's enough. So for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks so much for listening.